Welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. So today we'll be focusing on the most important news from this week from both the newspaper, the Indian Express as well as the Hindu, while also keeping care of the mapping. So the first news that we have is government takes Apex Cybersecurity Agency out of public's right to know. So what's being talked about here is the RTI Act of 2005 as well as the Apex Cybersecurity Agency. So we'll see which agency is being talked about here. Just a second. All right. So center, that means central government or parliament, has exempted the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, that is CERT, in the national nodal agency to deal with cybersecurity threats like hacking and phishing from the purview of Right to Information Act of 2005. Please always remember the year of the act whenever we are talking about any act. So just call it RTI 2005. The center has used its power given under subsection 2 of section 24 of the RTI Act to exempt CERT in from the purview of the transparency law. So the CERT in comes under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So this fact is important here. The Right to Information Act 2005 is administered by the Department of Personnel and Training. This fact is also important. So under section 24 of the RTI Act, certain organizations are exempted from the law. Let's say the security agencies such as RAW or CBI, etc. So they are not under the RTI. Let's talk about the CERT-IN. So CERT-IN is operational since July 2004. CERT-IN is the national nodal agency for responding to computer security incidents and as when they occur. In the Information Technology Amendment Act 2008, CERT has been designed to serve as the national agency to perform the following functions in the area of cyber security. So let's see what are the functions of the CERT. That is collection, analysis and dissemination. Dissemination means the distribution or the correct distribution of information on cyber incidents, forecast and alerts of cybersecurity incidents, emergency measures for handling cybersecurity incidents, coordination of cyber incidents response activities, issuing guidelines, advisories, etc., and prevention, response, and reporting of cyber incidents. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, that is the RTI Act of 2005, that is right to information. That is right to information. So right to information gained power when Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted in 1948, providing everyone the right to seek, receive information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966 states that everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression, the freedom to seek and impart information and ideas of all kinds. So this is a background to the RTI Act of 2005. According to Thomas Jefferson, information is the currency of democracy. All these lines I have mentioned here so that you can write them in your mains answer writing. So these are some quotes, let's say, which you can include in your notes, and critical to the emergence and development of a vibrant civil society. However, with a view to set up a practical regime for the citizens to secure information as a matter of right, the Indian Parliament enacted the Right to Information Act of 2005. Genesis of RTI law started in India in 1986 through judgment of Supreme Court in Mr. Kulwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case. This case is important, so please highlight this case and note it down and write it with the RTI Act. So in which it directed that freedom of speech and expression provided under Article 19 of the Constitution clearly implies right to information, as without information, the freedom of speech and expression cannot be fully used by the citizens. Because if they do not have anything to respond to or any information, what will they speak against? So one factor to curtail the expression is to hide the information. So if somebody is free to express and speak, they must have the information in the first place for that. That is why right to information was enacted eventually. Section 4 of the RTI Act requires suo motu disclosure of information by each public authority. Suo motu means on its own. So, but this has hardly been a case. Section 8 mentions exemptions against furnishing information under RTI Act. Section 8 subsection 2 provides for disclosure information exempted under Official Secret Act 1923 if larger public interest is served. The Act also provides for appointment of informational commissioners at central and state level. Public authorities have designated some of its officers as public information officers. They are responsible to give information to a person who seeks information under the RTI Act. The concerned time period regarding the information is within 30 days. Also, if the information is about the life or liberty of a person, it shall be supplied within 48 hours. Alright, let's move to the next news, which is COP28 in Dubai. So, as I told you, we'll also be dealing with the mapping portion here. First of all, let us see what is COP. COP is Conference of Parties. Conference of Parties. And parties to which? Parties to a treaty. Which treaty? UNFCCC. So we'll see about this treaty. We'll see about UNFCCC. We'll see what is this COP. COP 27 took place in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Last year in 2022. In 2023, the meeting is happening in Dubai. So as we see, this is the Persian Gulf. And this, when we come out of the Persian Gulf, of all the oil producing countries here in this area, this country is also much in news, the Kuwait. Alright, this is Qatar, also in news because of the India-Qatar issue. This is Bahrain, a very small place here. This is the UAE. We'll see what is UAE, how it's connected to Dubai. So Dubai is one of the Emirates of the UAE, and Dubai is located here. Alright, this is Gulf of Oman, and there on the other side of the Oman you can see Yemen. Of north you can see Saudi Arabia here. Further, if you go west to the Saudi Arabia, you can see the Red Sea, which follows through Egypt to the Mediterranean Sea. So this is the portion of the world we are talking about. Let's further move. Here, just a second. Yes, so Dubai is located here. This is the Persian Gulf here. This is the Gulf of Oman. This is Oman. This is Yemen. This is Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. Furthermore, this is the Suez Canal. This is Egypt, which is much in news now. You can follow this. These are islands of Greece, Cyprus, etc. This is the part question about which came in 2022, the Levant region. This is the Mediterranean Sea, and we covered this Caspian Sea, Black Sea portion very recently, Sea of Azov, etc. Alright, so you can head to that lecture for this thing. Okay, moving forward, so this is Prime Minister Modi taking a sortie in the Tejas aircraft. Very recent picture. So it's going to Dubai. Let's talk about that. So PM Modi will eventually attend the annual climate change conference, this time being held in Dubai from November 30th. The 28th edition to the Conference of Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC, which deals majorly with the climate change. In the COP27, if you remember, the major deal was the climate financing. Climate financing and the loss and damage fund. Loss and damage fund. So it will run till December 12th. The main agenda is to complete a stock-taking exercise to review the progress in the global fight against climate change and decide on measures to strengthen climate actions being taken by the countries. Modi had attended the Glasgow conference in 2021, during which he had unveiled India's 5-pronged Panchamrit strategy to deal with climate change. So we'll see that what is this Panchsheel and Panchamrit strategy. He had also announced New Delhi's plan to attain net zero status by 2070. Please always remember this is 2070 and not 2050. As we move further, we see the PM has also attended the 2015 conference, the Paris conference, in which the landmark Paris Agreement was signed. So what was this Paris Agreement? To keep the global temperature level 2 degrees Celsius below the pre-industrial levels or industrial levels. Dubai is not a standalone country. It is one of the 7 Emirates of the UAE. It shares border with the Emirate of Abu Dhabi to the south and west, Sharjah to the northeast, and the Sultanate of Oman to the southeast. The Emirate of Dubai has coastline along the Persian Gulf to the north, as we saw this type. So this was the Persian Gulf, this side and this side, and here it has borders. What are India's targets here? So in 2021, at the 26th edition of COP in Glasgow, Mr. Modi had announced 5 specific targets titled Panchamrit as part of India's climate action plan. These consisted of committing India to be net zero or carbon neutral by 2070, committing at least 500 gigawatts of energy installations by 2030 to be from non-fossil sources, cut carbon emissions by 1 billion tons, reduce the carbon intensity of the economy by 45%, and meet half of its energy requirements from renewable energy by 2030. Many of these goals are interrelated. So basically we wanted to go towards the renewable energy and attain a net zero status by 2070. So a key feature of the forthcoming COP summit in Dubai will be the conclusion of the global stocktake. A first ever reckoning means to assessment finally, while looking back, of the actions taken by each country towards achieving targets set at the COP in Paris in 2015. This was to take steps to keep the globe's average temperature from rising below 2 degrees Celsius and as far as possible below 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. That means 2100. A spate means recent happenings, let's say, of recent research reports show that actions collectively promised by countries so far will see temperature surge past the 2 degree Celsius mark by 2100. Climate change was a key priority area of India's G20 presidency also this year. The New Delhi's leader declaration this September committed these countries to tripling installed renewable energy capacity sources by 2030. So now talking about the UAE, as I mentioned before. So it's a country. Dubai is not a country. So located on the southeastern corner of the Arabian Peninsula. It's a federation of 7 Emirates, each governed by its own monarch. These Emirates are Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ajman, Al Quwain, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah. We have heard about these two more and sometimes about this also, but these two are pretty famous. So Abu Dhabi is actually the capital. Dubai is not the capital, please remember. But Dubai is very famous, known for its modern architecture, luxury shopping and vibrant nightlife. Dubai is also an economic model. It was just a fishing village earlier. And then it prospered into what it is today. So you can read the economic model of Dubai, China, India especially. So each Emirates operates under an autonomous region with its own local government and ruler. So this is also a mechanism of political ruling. Alright, so rulers of the Emirates form the Supreme Council of Rulers, which select the President and Vice President of the UAE among its members. Each Emirate has its local laws and policies, certain matters such as defense and foreign affairs. So it's also working similar to the center state model or the federal model, let's say. Dubai, being one of the Emirates, operates within a significant degree of autonomy under the umbrella of UAE. It has its own government led by a ruler and local administrative structure. The rulers of Dubai also serves as the Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE. So Dubai is fairly important in the structure of UAE. Alright, so let's come to the UNFCCC and COP. So we have already seen the UNFCCC. So that is Climate Change, Convention on Climate Change. So UN Framework on Climate Change is an international treaty. So first of all, please always remember that what is the nature of that we are talking about. So the nature is it's a treaty. So treaty, as it's a non-binding agreement adopted in 1992 during the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, that is in Brazil. The primary objective of the UNFCCC is to address climate change and its impacts on a global scale. The convention provides a framework for negotiating and coordinating efforts to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. while the COP stands for the Conference of the Parties. So it's an annual summit where all the parties meet and deal with climate change initiatives and assess progress. All right, let's come to the next news, which is in a first made in India drugs launched for rare diseases. So let's see which diseases are these. So Center has come up with a special initiative by manufacturing 4 types of homegrown made in India drugs for rare diseases for the first time. India has initiated low cost drugs. Low cost drugs are basically generic drugs for rare disease treatments after studying successful models from other countries. The central government has prioritized 13 rare diseases and sickle cell disease. So that's the India has the second most burden of the sickle cell diseases. It's a disease where the hemoglobin structure changes the red blood cell into sickle type cells, and it causes anemia. Anemia means a lack of RBCs, because RBC's lifespan will drastically reduce if they are sickle celled. So all drugs used for treating rare diseases were so far being imported and were expensive. The Union Health Ministry informed that the new drugs will bring down cost by 100-fold. A rare disease is a health condition of a particularly low prevalence that affects a small number of people. According to the data shared by the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, India could have 8.4 to 10 crore cases, and 80% cases are genetic conditions. Currently, there are 8 types of generic drugs, and among them, 4 types of drugs are available in India, and another 4 types of drugs will be available next year. The available generic drugs are for tyrosinemia type, Gaucher's disease, Wilson's disease, and Dravet's or Lennox-Gastaut syndrome seizures. So these are rare type of diseases for which India has gone. India has produced generic drugs. Okay, the next news is that India and European Union sign a semiconductor pact. So we have already talked about semiconductors in last lectures. Let us see what is this pact about. So India and European Union Friday signed a memorandum. It was on November 27th. Signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation on semiconductor ecosystem, which will facilitate investment, joint ventures, and technology partnerships, including manufacturing facilities. The move is in sync with India's plan to provide incentives worth $10 billion for chip manufacturing in the country itself. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed at the second India-EU Trade and Technology Council, that is TTC meeting, held virtually, and it is for deepening cooperation on semiconductor ecosystem, supply chain, and innovations. The TTC meeting also reviewed the progress achieved by the working groups, etc. So where semiconductors are used, they are used in computing, digital public infrastructure, EV batteries and its recycling, waste to energy resilient supply chains, and FDI screening. The first meeting of the TTC was held in May in Brussels. India is the second country after the US with which the EU has a TTC mechanism. The role of TTC is to deepen strategic engagement on trade and technology between both partners. Now let us see what is actually European Union or EU. So the EU is a supranational political and economic union of 27 member states that are located primarily in Europe. The EU has been described as a sui generis political entity without precedent or comparison, combining the characteristics of both a federation and a confederation. So these both of the terms are very important. What is federation, or what is federal type of government, and what is confederation? All right. Let us come to the mapping portion of the EU, which is also very important for us. So here you see mainly the Europe in this portion. So this is Poland here in the center, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. These are the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden and Norway, and Denmark here. These are the Nordic countries. This is the North Sea here. This here you see is Ireland and UK, Britain, etc., which has exited from the EU through Brexit. This is Netherlands, Germany here, Slovenia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria. These all we have recently seen when we were reading about the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. This is Mediterranean Sea, we all know. And here is the Turkey, and here are Armenia, etc., Azerbaijan, etc. Just a second. All right, so here is Ukraine, Russia, etc. Okay, so in EU we mostly see these countries such as Spain, France, Portugal here. All right, so this is the map of EU. Furthermore, there's a small news that Qatar court accepts appeal against that penalty to 8 Indians. So here for us only the mapping portion is important. Let us see that. So Qatar we already know. We talked about Dubai here in the last this video only because of the COP this year. All right, so we have already discovered this Red Sea, etc., Gulf of Oman here, Gulf of Aden, the Persian Gulf. So now we come to the Qatar, which I already mentioned there also. Doha is the capital of this. This is UAE, which we talked about. This is Oman and Yemen. This is Saudi Arabia, Bahrain here, Kuwait here, Iraq and Iran here. And up from the Mediterranean Sea, we have seen in the EU map. So please keep seeing all the mapping portions. All right, just a second. Let's come to here. So near to Qatar, we can see it's mostly an sea surrounded nation, surrounded by the Persian Gulf on all the sides. Then there is Hawar Bahrain, and the Hawat Salwa Bay. Please remember the name of this bay. It is near to Qatar. This can be asked in the geography questions. Next, further news we'll see in the next lecture. So this is Yatharth here. Thank you very much for your presence. Keep studying. Have a great day ahead and see you soon.